Hello everyone and welcome to this week's short video tutorial. This will be another uh, opening tutorial on the deferred opposite direction cannons, and it will be bot 41 from the free ebook that's available on the World Xiangqi Federation website called Deception and Countermeasures in the Xiangqi opening. So without further ado, let us begin the bot. Central cannon, the left cannon blockade, P3+1, and the deferred opposite direction cannons. Again, red would opt to use the double-headed snake pawns, whereby he would push both the third and seventh pawn forward to allow for development of both horses as proper horses. Black would solidify the central file. Black would play R1 equals to 2, file chariot for red, and red would choose to patrol the riverbank in this variation. Now, red would offer to trade chariots, and black would move R2 equals to 8 to link the chariots up and to add more power, or to apply more pressure on red's right flank. Black would take the opportunity to play R8+6 to attack this horse, which would be one of the major weaknesses in black's formation. Now, this would be the position of discussion. This will also be one of the major variations in this opening system. Black would choose to trade pawns in this situation. Now, there are two major counters that I will discuss in the board. The first would be P3+1, whereby red will accept the trade, and the other would be R8 equals to 7. Now, in the first variation, after accepting the trade of pawns, red will usually fall behind. So after trading pawns, this would be one of the main reasons why red wanted to trade, because he could retreat his central cannon and adopt a formation similar to the screenhouse defense. However, this would not be an apt choice in this situation. H3+4 would not be a good idea because at this point, this is one commonly used tactic by the deferred opposite direction cannons to attack the cannon rank. Now, at this point in time, black would not be able to do much, and once the cannon captured the horse, the red chariot would not be able to capture this pawn either. So black would have indirectly protected this horse in this manner, while further weakening red's right flank. So that is why H3+4 is not an option. And at this point in time, black would make a prophylactic move and switch formations to the semi-choice formation. It would be too rash to play C8 equals to 7 at this point, because red would try to capture the black horse in retaliation. Red would solidify his central file, trade off chariots, and this would be a very complicated and knotty situation. So by advancing the cannon over here, the horse will not be able to be developed. So the only way that this horse can be developed will be on the edge file, and this would further weaken red's right flank, and it will become very susceptible to attack by the black cannon. However, black would not be without his worries. Also, his right flank would also be very empty and very vulnerable and prone to attack by the red cannon and chariot in his file. And in comparison, black's centroid horse and red's centroid cannon, black's centroid horse would be a much bigger issue, because the only way they can move would be to H5+3 at this point. So he will have to move other pieces and risk further weakening his formation at this point. The black cannon will be more mobile in this sense, because he can move over here, C5 equals 7, and also target the elephant in the same file. So both colors would not be without their worries in this very naughty situation, and in this board, black would choose to uh, consolidate his defense before continuing to attack. So c8 equals to 7 would be a complicated position, while c5 equals to 6 would be a slower paced attack. Now, at this point in time, three different variations were discussed. The first would be the first of which would be h5 equals to 3. The second would be h3 plus 4, and the last would be r8 equals to 7. Now, we shall examine h3 plus 4 first. Now, if red tried to make this move, he will be threatening to capture the black black cannon in the same instance, and the black cannon cannot move c8 plus 1 as was mentioned earlier. So how should black retaliate? He will simply retreat his cannon back to his third rank and also protect the pawn at the same time, preparing to push p7 plus 1 to attack the chariot. So if red tried to be aggressive and capture the central pawn, and black would now gain material because this cannon would now be threatening to attack the cannon. And if the red cannon chose to capture the black cannon, this cannon would capture this chariot. So black would gain material in this instance, and getting such a major piece so early in the game would mean that black will have a significant advantage going to the mid game. R8 equals to 7 to try to capture the horse would not be an option either. Now this would be a slightly complicated subvariation. Black will protect the horse. Red will still go for the riverbank cannon, hoping to capture the central pawn. Again, black will retreat his cannon. A check will be played at this point in time. This will be the correct order of moves. Red cannot play h4 plus 5. And otherwise, after a few rounds, red will be sure to gain material. The horse cannot move. If it advanced, it will be immediate checkmate. If it retreated, h7 minus 9, the cannon would now capture the red horse. So red would gain material, and in chariotless mid-game or endgame situations, a loss of any one of the horse or cannon remaining on the board would mean that it would usually imply that the party was going to lose, the color was going to lose. So that is why c5 plus 5 is correct, would be the correct order of moves in this situation. Black would gladly accept the trade, and this would be a discovered attack, threatening to capture the elephant. Now, as can be seen, once black will make this move, red will be in all sorts of trouble. Black would now threaten to capture the chariot. If black captured the chariot, red would deliver a check first before capturing the chariot, and as can be seen, there will be now 1, 2, and even 1, 2, and even 3 pieces attacking black's right flank, whereas red would not have any attack at the moment, and development of this horse will be an issue. So there are many tactical options for black at this point in time, and black would have a significant advantage. So that is why r8 equals 7 is not a viable option. Instead, c5 equals to 3 was examined as the main line in variation 1. And black would choose to play c8 equals to 7 to threaten to capture the cannon and also trade chariots at this point in time. Now, because red had played c5 equals to 3, this chariot would not be protected by the horse at this point because it was blocked by the cannon. So red would have to trade chariots, and after doing so, red would have to be forced to trade cannons again. And as can be seen, although black would have 4 pieces, red would have 4 pieces, the formation or the position of the pieces is will be very, very much different. Because the cannon and horse are now have now shouldered the responsibility of protecting this horse, Red cannot move any elephant to the central file to consolidate his defense. And the cannon was applying, the red chariot was applying pressure on the black horse. So there are not many mobile pieces that red can move, whereas in comparison, we can see that the black horse will now be prepared to charge across the river. And again, this right flank will be a big issue for red. So at this point in time, although red would have gained an extra pawn, and then 4 pawns versus 3 pawns, his horses and cannons were under attack, and it would be very hard for red to have profited from this position. Hence, that is why, p3 plus 1 to capture or accept the trade of pawns would not be a good idea. Instead, the recommended move would be to play r equals to 7 immediately and sacrifice this pawn. This would be a very, very proactive approach to the game. And black, since red captured the pawn, black would have to push his pawn across the river. Now, h3 minus 5 would not be a good idea to try to move the horse to safety, even though you offer some protection to this elephant, because red would charge the pawn across the river, threaten to attack the cannon, threaten to capture the chariot, and also black would try to counter and gain material, retreating the horse, offering a trade of chariots, and this would be a very important intermediate move, check. And at this point in time, we can see that the cannon will now be attacking the black cannon and chariot in the same file, so the cannon would have to be moved. If black decided to trade material, red would have 2 extra pawns, and this would be a huge difference going to the end game. So at this point in time, h3 minus 5 would not be a good option. So red would accept black's sacrifice, and black would try to gain back lost material by advancing his pawn. Now, red would now make a very nice move with r2 plus 2, so that if by counter-sacrificing his horse, his chariot would be free to do damage. And in comparison, red would still have 1 chariot defending this right flank, whereas there was nothing, no major back pieces to defend black's right flank. At this point in time, there were 3 sub-variations that were discussed. The first would be p7 plus 1, whereby black would simply capture the horse. The second would be c8 equals to 5, whereby black would deliver a check. Now, another advantage of advancing the chariot would be that the cannon would be protecting the chariot. So black tried to make some mischief with c8 equals to 5. And the last variation would be to play r8 equals to 7 to threaten to push the pawn forward. In the first variation, p7 plus 1, the most direct variation, black would counter-sacrifice material, and red would draw first blood. After capturing the elephant, the red cannon would be prepared to play c9 plus 4 to capture the black pawn, and the cannon chariot combination would now wreak havoc in black's right flank. So that is why p7 plus 1 would not be a good idea. Now, as mentioned earlier, c8 equals to 5 would be the second subvariation. Red would gladly capture the cannon and counter-sacrifice his chariot in the process. Red cannot move the wrong horse. If h7 plus 5 were played, and black could reclaim the advantage. So at this point in time, black was bound to lose material because the cannon would now have pinned the red horse to the middle, in the middle of the central file. The correct red horse cannot move, or it will be an immediate check. And this cannon, red would have the only safe position would be c2 equals to 1. But this pawn will now be a very, very powerful attacking entity. And if black captured the red horse, he would gain an headhunter cannon, and this would be a very powerful entity. Black would be much, much faster in the ensuing game. Another option for black would be to play h7 plus 6, whereby the horse would be lost for sure. So black would, that is why h7 plus 5 cannot be played, and red can only move h3 plus 5, capturing the chariot, capturing the elephant. Now, by capturing the elephant, red will now be prepared to deliver a check and trade his cannons for a black chariot, forcing the chariot away, and red would advance the pawn across the river at a timely appropriately at this point in time. Again, the red cannon would now be prepared to attack this right empty flank. So black would have a very hard time trying to defend against red's attack, even though red had was down one chariot. So c8 equals to 5 would not be an option. Now, what would happen if black played r8 equals to 7? Now would be the correct time to make this move, because by retreating the cannon, this edge cannon will now also be protecting the red horse. So if black captured the pawn, red would simply capture, and it will be a trade of material or trade of chariots. But as can be seen, red's in this position, both sides would have 4 major pieces, but in this position, red would have a very, very strong and fortified position and will start threatening to attack the black elephant. Okay, say if black continued with c8 plus 3 to attempt to attack the central file, red could simply retreat his chariot, threatening to capture the black horse. So, at this point in time, red would now have gained a significant advantage in terms of position. His horse would be ready to move, the central cannon was still a viable threat, and this cannon would capture the black elephant should the chariot move away. So, in this situation, r8 in the second variation, r8 equals to 7 would be the suggested or recommended move. And red would usually gain a significant and very satisfactory position. Now there was a sub-variation that was given in the book for this final move. Instead of r7 minus 2, what would happen if red tried to be greedy and capture the elephant? Black could immediately pounce on the attack to opportunity to attack. And at this point in time, although black would have sacrificed both the elephants, he would now be prepared to play k5 equals to 6 to go for the checkmate, or move his king to safety if need be. And although black had captured 2 extra elephants, it would still take red at least 2 or 3 moves to be able to mount a significant attack. So red would have a hard time trying to control the situation, and black would have a huge advantage. So that is why it would be better for red to simply retreat his chariot to the riverbank for defense at this point in time. So a short recap. This would be the position of discussion, whereby black would offer a trade of pawns. In the first variation, red accepted the trade and fell behind in the development of the pieces. The correct or suggested move would be to play r8 equals to 7 for red. And there are and after progression to this situation, there are 3 sub-variations. The first would be p7 plus 1. Second will be c8 equals to 5. And the last will be r equals to 7. But red will come out victorious or have the advantage in all these sub-variations. So I hope you have enjoyed this week's short video tutorial, and if you like the work that I've been doing, please support my site and give me a like.